So now let's move on to the next competitor here in the interest of time, AWS. AWS Redshift. We know they can't do true non-disruptive online patching or maintenance. We know that the scalability is not anywhere near what we can achieve with an Exadata-based cloud. George, what's your take on Redshift? Any key points you'd bring up there?
Yeah, with AWS in general, I think that one of their shortcomings is that they do have all of these special purpose databases. They have Redshift built for data warehousing. They have a separate database for document JSON workloads, for graph workloads, for OLTP, and so forth. When we look specifically at data warehousing, I think that one of the great things that we provide with Autonomous Database is an ability to run any type of workload, even really high concurrency workloads. That we have the ability to support hundreds of small queries running at the same time. And we've seen customers who come to Oracle from Redshift because they couldn't get the concurrency they want. We've seen customers come to Oracle from Redshift because they couldn't load data in real time. They couldn't do sort of trickle feed style loading and satisfy their real time exercises. We'd seen people come to Oracle from Redshift because it's not elastic. They didn't have the ability to resize their Redshift clusters on the fly to kind of handle the type of dynamic workload that they wanted to. And we see that AWS is investing in some of these areas to improve it. But we think they have a very sort of steep learning curve to catch up in terms of performance, catch up in terms of concurrency, and all the other features that Oracle provides related to reliability and security and the completeness of the SQL language.
Holger. Yeah, again, the question of specialized versus universal database, which is the core of the problem here. Right? If you're really sure that something like Redshift is the only problem you have, then you're probably going to be happy. If you think you're an enterprise and you have many other database use cases, you may not have them yet on that platform, but you might be adding them. Then looking at a universal, what you guys call converged database, is going to be the more attractive offer, definitely in the long run. Maybe not in the short run, but definitely in the long run.
George, over to you on time series on AWS.
I think that the idea of having a specialized time series database, and there are people who have various definitions of time series. That's not a particularly well-defined term. But our approach within Oracle is we built optimizations for high-speed ingest into an Oracle database. It's economic to store large volumes of data in an Oracle database with very efficient compression. And once you have data in an Oracle database, we support different types of time series calculation and then memory optimization. But then you can use that data for any other purposes that you need it. And, if you have a very niche requirement to only look at a specific set of time series data with a specific set of time series analytics, and maybe a specialized database is fine. But we're pretty confident that 6 months down the line, you're going to have other uses for that data. And then do you want to replicate that data into a different database, into a different system? We think that the customers who actually think about their overall architecture will recognize that putting data into an autonomous database that has converged database capabilities can be much more economic in the long run.
You're an organization, and over the next 18 to 24 months, you have interest in deploying a blockchain cloud service, either on-prem or in the public cloud. You have interest in bringing greater degrees of automation to your environment. You have interest in introducing machine learning into your environment. You have interest in AI-injected applications, ERP, HCM, CX. Why invest in a vendor who prohibits them from moving in those directions? George, first to you.
I think the economics of cloud databases has very much changed the picture. If you look at customers who might be using on-premise, they could say, well, perhaps I could spend less money for a small best-of-breed vendor as opposed to a Oracle enterprise database to solve this specific point problem. In the cloud, all that goes out the window. you were really paying per usage, that the pricing in the cloud for Oracle or for other vendors becomes much more comparable when you look at the amount of processing, the amount of performance, the amount of data that you are getting, per second, per hour, per gigabyte. And therefore, I think there's much stronger reason to sort of choose the best right long-term architecture, which is a converged architecture for these types of solution, rather than looking towards point solution. So I think people did look at point solutions in the past. I think the difference is cloud economic changed that entirely, that you don't require DBA, you don't require a very large initial spend or a very large commitment of annual spend to start using Oracle Autonomous Database.
And Holger, your take on that
It's
question?
a great point George has made, right? The reason why you see specialized databases is because you go one project at a time. And what used to be the right answer 3 years ago and 2 years ago and 1 year ago now looks like a potential architectural mess. Right? I think the use case, the reasons for specialized database, tactical decision database side is pretty much something of the past. Of course, companies have all kinds of necessities and needs. So it's good for them to see the competition and good to see the rivalry between the two, the best of breed database suite versus the database suite as a universal converged database. It's a good debate to have. It's a great pros and cons on both sides. But I think the lever, the scale is tilting a little bit thanks to the cloud towards universal databases.
I would only add to your comments, gentlemen, in closing, is that obviously by partnering with vendors such as Oracle, whatever customers require along their journey, they need AI injected applications, we have that. They need blockchain cloud services, we have that. If they need high degrees of automation in the context of their databases, we have that. If they need machine learning, we don't have to bring in third-party tools. It's natively built into the database. We have that. If they need a fully automated data warehouse capability in the form of our ADW, Autonomous Data Warehouse offering, we have that as well. And so along their journey to higher degrees of automation, along their journey to deploying cloud services, either on-prem or public cloud or both, the benefit I contend that Oracle has vis-a-vis any of the principal competitors is no matter where customers are in that journey, Oracle has, as you call it, Holger, the chip to click stack. So we can accommodate their business requirements along any step of the path. So I think that captures the essence of what we wanted to convey. And thank you all for joining us today.